Hello, we are live. Welcome, folks. We are live streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and say hi so we know you're here. If you're watching on LinkedIn, say hi as well. We'll see those comments come in. And we'd love to know who's here, where you're watching from, all that kind of stuff. So go ahead and comment hello and let us know who's in the audience. Thank you for joining us. We are here today for the Agency Hour. We've got Lindsay Halsey, co-founder of Pathfinder SEO. So welcome, Lindsay. It's great to have you again.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I'm excited for this topic today. So we'll be revealing the art of page titles and meta descriptions. I know if anyone's like me, it's one of those things that you have to do, and sometimes it just feels so tedious and rote. But there is an art to it for sure, because when you're Google searching, again, if you're like me, when you see a page title that really works, you click on it. So it's big. Cool. Before we get into that, I just want to say a couple words about Quickly Hire. Quickly Hire is the fastest way to add vetted freelancers to your team. At Quickly Hire, we understand the importance of assembling top-tier talent for your business in a flexible way, whether you need a developer, content marketer, SEO specialist, designer, PPC, virtual assistant, we have got you covered. So we've got many roles. We're adding new ones often. So check in and let us know what you're looking for if we don't have it listed. Our platform connects you with highly vetted freelancers that we have vetted and assessed, and ones that match your budget and requirements, ensuring that you find the perfect fit for your team. They work with you for a set number of hours weekly, and you pay a set monthly retainer. So it's all taken care of, no surprise fees. You know what you're going to pay each month and how much time you get with your freelancer. So if you have any questions about Quickly Hire or how we can help your business, please reach out. We'd love to help with that. So now back to the Agency Hour with Lindsay Halsey. So Lindsay is co-founder of Pathfinder SEO, which is a software that gives agencies a system to market and sell and deliver SEO services without feeling overwhelmed. She is incredibly knowledgeable and smart and wise about the ways of SEO, which seem like magic to a lot of people. So we're really lucky to have her here. Thank you for joining us today, Lindsay, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Emily, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm really excited to dig into really mastering a skill in SEO. Sometimes SEO feels totally overwhelming. There's so many things you can do, and it's hard to know how to call yourself an expert in a topic. Well, today you are going to walk away as an expert in all things page titles and meta descriptions. And this is something that you can apply to your own website. If you're a web designer or freelancer, you can apply this skill to your clients' websites. And it's one of the things in SEO that I consider a quick win, or an area where we take action and then we can actually see results from that action relatively quickly. So let me start sharing my screen here, and we'll dive right in. Awesome. I think you all can see it. I'm keeping an eye on the chat as well, so feel free to start asking questions. We'll have plenty of time at the end, and let's go ahead and dive in here. We're going to keep the structure of today's conversation really quite simple. I'm going to cover the what, why, when, and the how. And obviously, we'll spend the most time here on the how. And we'll start with the easy stuff and make sure we're all up to speed on kind of the basics. And that is, what are page titles and meta descriptions? They really are short descriptions of a web page that are often utilized in the search engine results page. So here's a little snapshot of a Google search engine results page. And the text in blue is the big text in blue. That is your page title. And the kind of sentence format text in gray or black below it, 2 lines, that is the meta description. And we often hear the page title get called a title tag or an SEO title. It's different than the title of the page that you're on. So it is a different, it's a different title there. And the page title also displays in the browser bar. So if we go to a web page like so, and we look at the page title, we can actually see it up here in the browser bar up at the top. But otherwise, it's not the content on the page here. And you can use little spying tools. I like this one by a Chrome extension called Detailed. And I'm not sure with StreamYard if it's going to show you the extension exactly, but check out Detailed as a way of quickly spying on page titles and meta descriptions without having to actually look at the page code. So that's a little bit about what they are, where they live. They live in the header HTML of every page. And so every CMS has a different place to enter them. This is a little screenshot from WordPress using Yoast on where those live. And if we come in here, essentially we can go and look at the page source, since that's an easier way to look at it without that Chrome extension. And if we look here, it's in the header text. And if we scroll in and have to kind of zoom in, here is the page title, and here is the meta description for this page. So that's a little bit about what they are and kind of where they live on a website, and a little bit about how you control them in the back end. It's really more interesting to think about why these matter and why we're even talking or mastering this skill. In some ways, this is a very old school skill. I literally remember like 15 years ago starting in SEO. I knew almost nothing about the field. I was an account manager, and on day one of my job, one of the tasks I was given was to write page titles and meta descriptions for a website. And so, when I think back to those early days of building an SEO skill set, 15 years ago, page titles and meta descriptions mattered, and they still do today. And they've evolved, but they haven't changed overwhelmingly. So why do they matter? Well, the first is that the keyword usage provides Google with context. And essentially, when you think about context, you think about the search engine crawlers coming into a page and crawling the HTML on the page. Before they ever get to all of the great content you wrote in that great user experience, they're in the header here. And this is where they get context about what this page is going to be all about. And so these are some of the first like non-programming or non-code lines that they really get to understand the context of the page that they're about to crawl and index. So there is some value there in this idea of giving Google a contextual clue. The second is that they help you win the click. And so if you're in a crowded keyword space and you are trying to win the click, things to do in let's try things to do in Breckenridge, and you're trying to win this click, the content in here is going to really influence what we choose to click on. And click-through rates are an important part of SEO. We got to win the click. And as Emily noted in the beginning, like sometimes you click on a result that's not number 1, 2, or 3 in the search results because you see something super engaging or catchy in that ad text, essentially, that comes out of the page titles and meta descriptions. Well, it turns out that we have confirmation now that some data got leaked, or some API data was leaked from Google, that this click data is actually part of Google's broader systems or algorithms. And so Google has a lot of different systems that comprise the overarching algorithms that calculate who's number 1 and who's number 100. And SEOs have long suspected that click interaction is part of that, is part of those systems. We don't know how big of a part of a system it is, but we've long suspected it's part of the system. And that's really part of what we've gotten confirmation out over the last month or two from Google, is that there are systems in place that look for things like, let's say lots of people are scrolling down and they're clicking on this result down here that's in the position 6 or 7 result, and that this website is getting somewhat of an outsized, essentially an outsized result. And so if this is getting an outsized result in clicks or click-through rates, that sort of is a vote of endorsement for this page. And Google systems kind of look at that type of behavior. They look at then if you click over and then do you come back quickly, or do you stay on that site and dwell for a while, to really try to engage. And that is part of the ranking system. So there's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy here that if your page titles and meta descriptions are good for your website or your clients' websites, they're going to help you win the click, but that winning that click is actually going to help you win more clicks and sort of crawl up the search engine results page. And that's what I have sort of noticed intrinsically for clients for so many years, and why our agency spends a lot of time doing what is considered sort of old school or basic SEO, of really putting a lot of focus on these page titles and meta descriptions, is because we've always seen the residual impact. With SEO, it's hard to operate in a vacuum, but I will say that if I go into a client's website and there's only one thing I do, and I go in and I kind of overhaul and really improve their page titles and meta descriptions, I'll see a lift in their traffic the next month. And there's this kind of correlation and expectation that, well, the lift was likely the result of that SEO kind of project that we did for them around this topic. The big thing here is that they impact both users and the search engines. They impact your potential visitors in the search engine results page. They impact the search engines and the search engine algorithms. And so there's just a lot of reasons why we should care about page titles and meta descriptions, and why I consider this an impactful SEO task. The next thing I want to chat a little bit about is when to focus on them. If you know the what and the why, the next question is sort of when should we dig into these? And so when we think about the when, there are kind of 4 general time periods where I tend to work on page titles and meta descriptions, or really 3, and then a call to action to dig into these now. The first is before a new website goes live. So if I'm working on a brand new client project for a website, that's a really good time. Or if a client's going through a replatform or a redesign, this is a task that we include in what we call an SEO setup, sort of the project that goes alongside with the launch of a new site to either preserve or enhance their current visibility. So that's a core time to focus on them. The second would be as you create new pages and posts. So I go to write a new blog post and I'm going to publish it. We finally got around to launching a blog on our own agency website. And as I publish a piece of content like this, I'm going to think about the page title and the meta description and sort of tune these up as I go for new content. The same is true when I'm working on a client site. So if they launch new content, I like to get in and make sure that the page title and meta description are appropriate and engaging for those. The other time that I tend to do this is what I'm going to call an annual tune-up. And so the title of today's talk is The Art and the Science, and we're about to get into that balance of the art and the science. And so it's super exciting. And when you get into the art and the science, sometimes you come back and you circle back around to what you may have written, or maybe your client wrote a year ago or 6 months ago, and you find there's an opportunity for improvement. You're like, ooh, actually, this isn't as engaging as it could be. Or, you know what, I really don't have a good focus keyword here. Maybe I didn't even know what the focus keyword should have been. And so I see room for improvement. So as I kind of map out, if you're offering SEO services, the times that this pops in is in that setup with that new site going live, or doing SEO, kind of a jumpstart project to get a client's website going. As clients add new content or you add new content, and then finally scheduling time on an annual basis to take a step back, look at what you have in all of your page titles and meta descriptions, and try to make some incremental improvements in like a tune-up type project. The last one is I just said now. If this is something that's sort of new to you, or you just feel like you've neglected it, then now is a great time, even if you only have an hour to dig in and to invest in your page titles and meta descriptions. So let's get into the how, because this is really what you came here for, is to master the skill set. And like everything, we try to follow a process, and following a process allows us to scale and to make improvements. So the first step is really just to gather the necessary resources. And really what you'll need is access to the website. So if it's WordPress or Shopify or Squarespace, ideally you'll have access to the website you're working on. You're going to want a spreadsheet or a place to sort of organize your work so that you can work on it and step away and really look at the big picture. And then you're also going to need some basic keyword awareness. We sort of have to know like what we're trying to rank for with a page or with a website to be able to do a good job with this project. And so ideally, we've already done keyword research and sort of created some keyword strategy, or maybe we have a keyword map in place. But sometimes when you're working on this for a client or just in a quick project, just trying to kind of tune things up, you may not always have like full-blown keyword research at your fingertips. And so one of the kind of shortcuts that I like to do for that is sometimes use the Google Search Console. So I'll show you a little bit of that, how that could be a supporting resource of what you might need to be able to get going as Search Console access. And so I'm going to drop this handy link into the task or into the chat. And I think, Emily, this goes to everyone, but maybe double check my work in StreamYard for me. But essentially, this is just a really quick and simple spreadsheet you can get access to. It's a Google Sheet, and it'll prompt you to make a copy so that you can work from square one. And it's really quite simple, but it basically has 6 or 7 columns. We have the URL or the page we're working on, the focus keyword, like what we're trying to rank for with that page, if anything, where we're going to write our page title, a little formula so that as I write a page title, this updates over here so that I know the character count, and then the same for a meta description, etc. So super simple little spreadsheet, but it helps me stay organized and on top of things. And now you've got access to it too. The next thing I do is I prioritize for impact. And so the role I tend to play here is the SEO account manager. So I tend to be passing this task along to somebody else on my team, oftentimes a copywriter. And I know the client's site, I know the client's budget, like how much time and energy we have to invest in this project to stay on budget. And so I need to be really mindful of how do I prioritize my time for impact, because you can imagine that if a site is small, let's say 5 to 10 pages, no big deal. This project just isn't going to take that long. You're going to have 10 rows or so of work in this spreadsheet. But what do you do if your client's website or your website has 1,000 pages on it, or even 100? They simply may not have the budget, or you may not have the budget on your own site to be able to go in and work on that comprehensively. And so I like to time box this effort. And I time box it by looking at this blend of customization versus automation. So when I talk about customization, I mean defining a page and then sitting down and writing the page title and meta description physically for that page. So I am customizing it at a page by page level. On the other hand, a lot of content management systems, and WordPress is my favorite for this, allow you to create some automations or to create some patterns where you can get a good page title and meta description for a page based on essentially based on the content type settings. So this is a screenshot here out of Yoast where I can say for all my blog posts, I want the SEO title to be the title of the page, and I want the meta description to be the excerpt for the blog post. And so all of a sudden, if I have 1,000 blog posts on my website, I know at a bare minimum, they have unique page titles and meta descriptions, and that they fit this sort of general pattern here. And I can imagine going through, and let's say I'm working on a site that has a lot of blog posts, a lot of products, so maybe some e-commerce. Maybe they have events. Things that are usually high volume and frequently updated. These are examples of content types that I'll often automate to time box my effort. So I'll look at a client's website and I'll say, okay, what should I automate and what should I customize based on where I'll have the most impact, and then also what kind of my budget is in the project. I can also break this into pieces. So I can customize for the top 20 pages as part of my SEO setup and set some baseline automations. And then I can come back over time and say customize on top of that automation, if that makes sense. So I can come back and say, okay, now I'm going to go this month and I'm going to write custom page titles and meta descriptions for the top 20 blog posts that had been relying on this automation. But now for the best of the best, I'm going to go in and customize this work. So we can time box our effort and basically make a strategic plan about how to approach the project. A great resource for that time boxing is oftentimes your XML sitemap. So if I come in here and I look for our XML sitemap on this website, which is a little bigger than our agency's website, it will pull up here and I can see all the different content types. And sometimes I'll just open these up for sites that I don't know very well. And I'll be like, okay, how many blog posts or pages do I have? Okay, there's 45 pages. That's a lot. And I can kind of look and see like which ones need, which ones actually need work and which ones don't. And then in here, I'm like webinars, okay, 31, blog case studies, there's not that many. And then I'm like, ooh, blog category pages, not that many. How many blog posts, etc. So I can get a sense of the size and scale. And then here I might be like, ooh, okay, I don't have budget to go in and customize the work on each one of these. And sometimes I'll even kind of open some of these up and I'll see, well, like what do they have in there today? What do they actually have as their page title and meta description settings? So that can help you to time box your effort a bit. So we've got the resources, we've got this idea that we're going to kind of determine the depth or approach we're going to take. And just to kind of reiterate, the key pages for customization are likely your homepage, the main navigation, pages already driving organic traffic, or content created with an SEO intent. And so sometimes I create a blog post and it's not really for SEO. It's like sales enablement, or I think it'll be really good in social media or email marketing. Yes, I care about the SEO on that page, but it's probably not super driven towards getting traffic or winning the click. Other times I create a piece of content, it was like came out of seeing the demand or the search volume. It's super oriented towards SEO. I put that as a key page for customization. And then those content types for automation, frequently created or just large content types are great ones for that. So step 3, now that I sort of have a big picture, is I'm going to list the pages that I want to focus on, and I'm going to note their focus keywords. And so this is really relatively simple. I go into my spreadsheet and I list my core URLs, and then I note those focus keywords. And so I think this was an example of something pretty simple, like what I might do for my agency website. And so for our agency website, what I'd likely do is do our homepage and then all of our navigation items. And if I don't know, what a page ranks for or something like that, I might come in and actually look at this page. It's been live for a while, so it has some traction. I can actually go over into the Search Console. Let me see. Oh, unfortunately, let me see if I can find a property or a Search Console that has this one verified. I'm logged into too many Google accounts as always. Okay, here we go. So here's Google Search Console and I have performance. We don't do a lot of marketing on our agency website. So if I come in and I view all the traffic we're getting, I can see some traction in here, some keywords that are getting some traction. So I see SEO for outdoor brands and outdoor brand SEO services. And I see that over the last 3 months, we've gotten some traction in here. My guess is it's this page that I'm interested in, this active lifestyle. So I can kind of zoom in. I know I'm clicking around a little bit quickly. We have done some trainings in the archives here at Quickly Hire about Search Console if you want to master this skill more. But here I'm basically honing in on only this page and I'm saying, well, what are people searching for and how am I ranking? And here I'm like, okay, impressions, SEO for outdoor brands or outdoor brands SEO services. These are kind of the 2 core keywords. And so if I was making this sheet and I wanted to add this in, I could put this URL in this list here, and then I could come in and it was SEO for outdoor brands. Looks like my core keyword for this page. For our homepage, I'm probably going to focus on the brand because that's, really a lot of our traffic to our homepage is just the name of our business. And I could go in and I could do this exercise for additional pages. I think I saw in here some other good queries like Google Ads for small businesses. We're like sort of on the map for it, but not getting any traction. But I can see we have 2 pages competing in this space. We have a blog post and we have an actual URL. And so I could go in and kind of get a little bit of insight into that. So I go through and I build out essentially like all of the URLs I'm going to customize here and then what I think their keywords should be here. And the main things to think about when you're doing this kind of keyword to page mapping is avoid keyword stuffing. So if there's a keyword I want to rank for, but I can't find a page for it, it's not enough to just like list it next to some random page that doesn't have a keyword and say, oh, I'm going to optimize this page around this focus keyword in the page title and meta description because I don't have anywhere else to put this like wish list keyword. It doesn't work like that. You've got to have the page that maps nicely to the focus keyword, because if I win the click on a keyword like this and they come to this page and they bounce right back to Google, Google's going to pick up on that poor user experience, and this page will probably rank further down the list in the long run. So there's really no value in trying to like trick the system. It doesn't work. So no keyword stuffing and kind of mismatches. Really think about user experience and just use general logic there. The next is this concept that you get to use the Google Search Console for insights. So if you haven't done in-depth keyword research, or if you just want to sort of reframe, like you're thinking about it and you're like, okay, what is the real world traction look like for a given URL? Maybe you don't have that insight yet. I can click on something like the About page here, and I can come in and see, okay, it's names in the business. So we should probably optimize our About page around those types of keywords. We generally want to avoid duplicates. This sometimes is challenging, and so when we want to avoid duplicates, we essentially want to avoid putting the same focus keyword on two pages, because then Google doesn't totally know what to rank it for. So kind of look for ways to get more unique in your page or in your keywords so that you don't have the same keyword in two places. And then your homepage is your strongest page. So if you're trying to rank for something kind of big or hard, it's oftentimes your homepage that stands the best bet, and that you might map those big keywords to your homepage. Step 4 is we're going to draft these page titles and meta descriptions. And it's helpful to just kind of know what that looks like. It literally just means getting in your spreadsheet and writing these out. But ultimately, I just kind of keep a little checklist of what makes a good page title. The first thing is that it's concise and enticing. So it needs to be relatively short. Here it's noted to aim for 30 to 60 characters. And it has to be exciting. So we don't want it to be super boring. We want to leverage your brand. We generally leverage a separator like a dash or a pipe. And then we want to utilize the focus keyword. So if we go over to our spreadsheet here, and I was writing a page title for our homepage, on my homepage, I almost always, and I don't use the word always often with SEO, but I almost always start with the brand, and then do whatever my separator is going to be. Maybe it's a dash. And then I do a focus keyword here. So we're search engine marketing agency in Aspen, CO, or something like that. So maybe I do something where I put the brand keyword here, and then our mothership keyword, something that is the defining thing of our service, in this case, our service area or target geography in the page title. For this one over here, I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to put my focus keyword first. And then I almost always add in the brand. So for services pages and stuff like that, that tends to be my my mapping or matchup. There are exceptions to where I don't get the brand in, and that tends to be if the character count is too high. So if the character count goes too high because this is too long, the keyword, then I may just leave the brand out, because, and that often happens for blog posts because they're on little lengthier topics. They take a little bit more space. When I'm writing these, there's so many things I'm thinking about, like keyword usage, trying to be engaging, following just general best practices. I generally capitalize. I capitalize things. We don't capitalize the W in our brand, but I generally capitalize things like I would in a title. And then I oftentimes also search for this on Google to see what the competition looks like, because again, I'm trying to win the click. And so I'm like, okay, outdoor brand SEO strategies, or tactics, that could be a word to get in there. SEO for outdoor industry companies. It's not winning SEO tactics for SEO brands. These look more like page titles for a blog post and a little bit less for a services page. But you can see how some folks go about it. Here they did outdoor SEO, tips to improve your ranking. So they didn't put their brand. They did something that they're considering like enticing to win the click. I generally speaking avoid multiple separators. This one has one separator here and then another one here, like 3 parts. I really try to limit myself to 2 parts. And your 2 parts could be the keyword here, and then, like I said, something enticing and skip the brand. Or it can be something around the brand. You can see how most people here are skipping the brand, and they're doing a lot around like SEO tips for the outdoor industry, and trying to get into the space that way. So these are best practices. That's a little bit about what it looks like, and how we kind of bounce around. When we think about meta descriptions, we go with a sentence format. We want to include a call to action. There's some studies that show when you have a call to action in there, you are more likely to lead the person to do the thing you want them to do. So if it's a services page on our agency website, my call to action might be something like book a discovery call or something like that. Or download a white paper or whatever the lead magnet might be. I'm going to try to include that in there. We're aiming for 155 to 160 characters, or Google will just kind of cut it off. And a lot of times here, I'll either use my focus keyword again or some kind of a synonym. So oftentimes we want to rank for more than one keyword with a page, and we put like the keyword we want the most in the page title. Sometimes in the meta description, I'm going to go with something that's more of a synonym type thing. So in here, I could come over to the page and try to grab a little bit of content. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here, essentially, and try to generate something that's going to be a good meta description. And this is where you're probably 5 steps ahead of me here. You might be thinking about leveraging AI somewhere in this process. And there's nothing to stop you from leveraging AI while you're drafting page titles and meta descriptions. In fact, WordPress SEO plugins like Yoast now have AI functionality built into them. So I can actually just leverage the AI directly in that interface. So that opportunity exists to you, or you can go back to something like a ChatGPT and have that be the tool. Let's see if I can get in here. Be the tool that allows you to do that. So what would that look like? Maybe I take this content here, I go to ChatGPT and I say, write 5 meta descriptions that focus on outdoor industry, or SEO for the outdoor industry. I think SEO for the outdoor industry as the keyword for a page with this copy. Be engaging, concise, and stay under 160 characters. And so then maybe I'll drop this content in, and let's see, my prompt isn't amazing, but that was a quick prompt where I might be able to give them, okay, I already wrote this copy. Maybe essentially I can come in here and see if I like some of the content that ChatGPT wrote, or I can do this using Yoast or other plugins directly in, so that I don't have to mastermind the copywriting of the meta description. It really depends on like how creative you are. Or sometimes I find like, I know I'm an SEO, I'm not super creative. I just know the keyword I want to rank for and kind of the content I'm working with. So a lot of times AI is a really nice way to jumpstart things here. So these are the best practices for these areas. And once I've gotten these written for like the top 10 or top 20 pages, whatever I'm doing in terms of a customization, I move into what I'll call a feedback and edit phase. I like to step away from these for a day. And at the very least, I'm going to review the spreadsheet. I'm going to go in and spell check them. I'm going to look at them. I'm going to see if I over optimize them. Like, did I put too many keywords in? Did I stay in length, etc.? I'm going to give them a good review. If you're doing this as a service, you have to determine if your client is going to want a review period on these two, in which case you can send them the spreadsheet, but they're probably going to need some context. They're not going to be able to just jump in and know what you want them to do with these. And so some kind of like a Loom video preface or a written preface, or just reviewing it with them on a call, is a great way to get client feedback if you have clients that really are super particular about their page titles and meta descriptions. It's about 50-50, I'd say, at our agency. 50% of our clients never want to know about this stuff. This is why they hire us. And 50% want to review it. Of the 50% that review it, most don't provide any feedback. They just approve it, so to speak. And within, maybe 10% of our clients actually get in there and get really nitty gritty and try to wordsmith and change things around, and are a little more particular there. So that feedback edit process is really helpful. And if you're working with a team, this is where a team is awesome. So our copywriter will send this back to me, and then I'll be the one on feedback and editing. If there are a lot of revisions needed, I might send it back to her. If it's just me sort of adding my take or my art and science kind of combo to it, then oftentimes I'll just make the edits and be on my way and really ready to get these live. So here are kind of the things that we tend to do, but the number one is spell check. The only time I get frustrated, essentially with our team, is when these aren't spell checked, because what ends up happening is a client catches a typo in the search engine results page, and the typo came from us. And so that can be a concern. And that's just one of those basics that we want to get right. Step 6 is implementing these on the website. So when we implement these on the website, this is really the easy part. It depends on your content management system. And if you don't know how to do that, you can just Google like the name of your content management system and page titles or something, and you'll get instructions like how to implement these in Shopify or how to do this in WordPress. So it's, a lot of copying and pasting essentially to get those in there. You could have a developer do it. If you have a developer on your team, it'd be a kind of maybe a bit of a boring task for them, but they certainly could get this done for you as needed. And then you're kind of in a great spot. So I want to talk about taking this to the next level, and then we'll open this up for questions. The first thing I want to note is we've been very pro on the power of page titles and meta descriptions, but you do have to accept that Google does not have to use these. It is not ad text like you get with Google Ads. So when you write this ad text in Google Ads, it's exactly what Google's going to use. When you write a page title and a meta description, Google has the opportunity to use it, but sometimes they don't use it. So you in those cases where you see Google redoing something, let's see, Refuge Point is my example here. When this happens, you might decide to make some changes to the content. And so I recently had a client note to us that we used a phrase that they don't like to use anymore, at-risk refugees. And they were sort of wondering how this came through in the meta description when they've already notified us not to use that. And so we came in and we were like, oh no, we probably made a mistake here. And I went in and looked at at the content on their page, and it's kind of, let's see. And I looked at it, and we actually didn't use this. And I'm using the Chrome extension that you can't see, unfortunately, but I double checked, and the meta description never uses that text. And so instead, what happened was Google is finding this phrase on their own page. And so let's see if they still have it on here. So we found the content actually on their page in a key place. And so Google's sort of skipping using our well-written meta description and seems to prefer this copy on the page. So if the client wants that phrase out of the vocabulary, then here, to guarantee it more, we can't use it in a place like this, or we have to be willing to accept that Google may skip over what we wrote and choose to create their own meta description or their own page title. So that's something to just be aware of. It doesn't mean there's not value here. It just simply means It just simply means that this is an opportunity to educate a client if you see something that isn't quite under your tight control, and Google's doing its own thing. The other thing we talked a little bit about is when you do this as a tune-up. So you already have a site going. You may not want to start from square one. So if I was doing this for our own Pathfinder website, I wouldn't just start totally at square one, because I know we've done some not great, or maybe I should say just not consistent. We haven't treated our own website like a client project, but we have added page titles and meta descriptions as we've gone. And so there is certainly some traction in here. So what would I do if I want to kind of review this? I would go to a tool called Screaming Frog, and you can download this onto your computer. It's a little software. You can get a free version that lets you crawl smaller websites up to kind of medium sites. You have to buy a paid version if you want the full crawl, but there's a lot of ways to make lists like this. It'll actually crawl the whole website, and then you can export your current page titles and meta descriptions, sort of import them into a spreadsheet like this, and then you can work on revising and improving them without starting from the ground up. So a lot of times if I'm doing this project for a client with existing traction and some existing SEO work, that's the direction I start, is doing that scan, getting my sheet organized. So it just is like all of this listed out, and then it's pretty easy to take it from there. So those are a couple little last things. I also have my contact information here. Lindsay at Pathfinder SEO. Feel free to reach out with questions that may come up when you get going. And otherwise, let's open this up to questions and see how things are going on your end. Whether your question is on page titles and meta descriptions or something more general in SEO, I'm more than happy to dive in.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. That was really helpful, really great actionable presentation, I feel like, for folks that are doing this daily, our agency owners out there that are building websites and dealing with all this page work. And I know Heather, someone who's been watching on YouTube with us, was mentioning that, you know, it's becoming more and more apparent that page title and meta description are things we need to pay attention to help with click-through rate for our clients, right?
Exactly. It's just one of those areas. And I'd say if you don't offer any SEO services to your clients and you do one thing for them in this category, as you launch a new website, just customize the homepage page title and meta description. Don't leave them with like home dash brand or something like that. Or sometimes we'll see clients get in the index like a blog post. This is a generic blog post template, whatever. Like just tune up like the very simple stuff that you can do in 5 minutes. And then you can figure out, you know, how to integrate how you want to integrate a task like this, since it is high value, into your offering. You don't want to give away this heavy, great work for free. But sometimes I'll give away the easy stuff like that homepage page title.
Absolutely. I love that tip. That's really, really smart. If folks have questions, like Lindsay said, you can post them in the comments and we'll get to them. They can be about page titles, meta descriptions, or general SEO questions. And one came to mind, and I know we didn't talk about this topic now, and we've talked about it in the past, but alt image text. And I'm wondering, because it came to mind when you mentioned leveraging AI, right? Because that is one of those super tedious tasks, because how many images, illustrations, all of that we have on our websites, and we're told over and over again how important alt text is. Do you have a solution for that? How do you handle that?
Yeah, so this is a really good one, and this is like where we do have to just be mindful of budget. And like when a lot of SEO providers get into SEO, they, you know, use a software that like gives them errors and warnings, and they chase fixing the errors and warnings. And our client likes to see those numbers go down, but like, how do you know what's really going to move the needle? So if you have 1,000 images without alt text, and it's going to go take you 10 hours to go in and customize that, is that the best place to work? Or would you be better off using those 10 hours to write some great blog posts? More often than not, when you chase errors and warnings, like trying to reduce the number of alt text missing, you know, stuff and things like that, you're doing like SEO maintenance. You're not really going to like dramatically move the needle. You're just doing some best practices that I do think are important, but not important at the expense of like the strategic or higher value work in terms of SEO, which would be something like creating new content or a blog post. That being said, alt text isn't just important for SEO. Alt text is also important for accessibility. And so it is an area where it's not that I'm chasing it down to zero because it's going to dramatically improve the SEO. It's also because I want my clients to perform well within accessibility. And I think that matters a lot. And so a lot of times in WordPress, you can do a couple things. One, you can click through the media library and manually fill in all your alt text. And if you have a small website, again, that's just the easiest solution to go in and do that. The other thing I tend to do is ask the client if they have like an intern or something, especially at the summertime, because this is a great project to give to an intern. You can train them up in a half hour, turn them loose, and they can go and tackle an enormous amount of work. And your client sometimes loves it because you kept their intern busy doing something with value. So things are good. If it's going to fall on our agency's shoulders, and there's a lot, there have become, some alt text plugins that leverage AI. And here's one that we've played around with a little bit, where we can actually just go in. These are generally paid solutions, but they'll come in and help you cover wider swaths and use AI to automatically generate the alt text for you if you have a big overhaul type project. So lots of options there. And I do see value in spending time here, just not the kind of value where I don't sit down and say, okay, we did 5 hours of alt text improvements for our clients, or we used a plugin like this. Now let's see what happened in the rankings. It's not that direct. Whereas the effort with page titles and meta descriptions gets a little closer to like, hey, I tuned these up last month. Am I getting more traction or better rankings this month? So a little bit of a different type task.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that I forgot to mention the importance of the accessibility factor of this. It's not just SEO, it is accessibility, which is definitely a reason to do it. But yeah, like you said, it's tedious. And if you have an intern, virtual assistant, someone that can, tackle tasks and is really good at the kind of systematic approach to these sorts of things, it's fantastic for that. But it is the thing that when you have all of your other SEO ducks in a row, that's the top of the report. You have 500 images with no alt text, right? And it's number one action item to check off the list.
Yeah, and there is, definitely a component of all of this where you have to communicate with your client because, we all get, like, we at our agency and at Pathfinder, we get emails from salespeople that don't even look to see that we have SEO services, and are like, we provide SEO services, and here's this free report, and here's what flagged, blah, blah, blah. Well, your clients get those emails too. And they don't know, what they don't know. And so if they're paying you a retainer of $1,000 a month to do SEO, and then they get an email like that, it's reasonable for them to feel frustrated. Like, why aren't you doing these things? Isn't this SEO? Like, why do these errors exist? Or why are a few of my page titles too long? And so you do need to bring an SEO or your client on board about your approach to SEO and how you're trying to do like really real world SEO work. And that, yes, you do SEO maintenance and you do, tune these things up and try to make improvements, but bringing all those errors and warnings to zero isn't going to have the same impact as 10 great new blog posts or building some new service landing pages or whatever else you might be doing in the real world that really has sort of also like cross-marketing channel value that goes beyond SEO. So you got to bring your client on board to that concept and strategy. Otherwise, once in a blue moon, you may lose a client to one of those sales pitches about chasing the stuff that comes out of automated reports.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good advice there. I'm not seeing any questions coming in. Heather is mentioning that she did a cool thing on ChatGPT, and I don't think her comment came all the way through, but I'm assuming using ChatGPT to use to get the alt text or page titles and all that. There's so many great ways to use that these days, and definitely leverage that, especially if you're a one-person team or have your resources stretched, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you, Lindsay, so much for your time. We will be back again next month with Lindsay, so stay tuned for that. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube that you subscribe to our channel so you'll get the updates and you won't miss our future Agency Hour series episodes with Lindsay and other experts for agency owners. And if anyone has any questions, if you're watching the recording, you can post them in the comments. You can reach out to myself, Emily at quicklyhire.com, or Lindsay at pathfinderseo.com. And we will be back next month. So Lindsay, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who joined us live. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Emily.
Bye.